t squared plus 15t plus 9. So you're looking for what can you factor out of this. So you have 12, 15, and 9.
Wait, so you start tests tomorrow?
To test is tomorrow.
Wait, how?
Because
you like move it up a little bit?
okay, so you're going to look at this. You've got 12, 15, and 9. All of these are divisible by 3. So you're going to factor out a 3. So you do 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 4t squared. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 5t plus, and then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now, you cannot factor out the t because there's not a t in this last term. So you cannot factor out the t. Let's look at another one. Write down number 2. It is going to be 10 ad squared plus 15 bd to the third minus 15 cd to the fifth. Why are you not writing this down?
Huh?
Why are you not writing this down?
Oh, I have no clue.
Okay, write it down. Okay, so you're going to first look at these. I'm going to give anything that doesn't have an exponent of 1. And then I'm going to figure out what I can factor out. I have 10, 15, and 15. All of those are divisible by 5. So I'm going to first factor out a 5. And then I'm going to look for what variable is common to all of them. Is there an a in all of them? No. Is there a d in all of them? Yes. So you're going to do 5d. And then the lowest exponent on the d is the squared. So it's going to be 5d squared that you're going to factor out. Now we're going to fill in the inside. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then I have my a that's left. And then I have to subtract for my d. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I don't need any d's there. Now we're going to our next one. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Didn't factor out a b, so I'm going to copy that down. I factored out 2d, so you do 3 minus 2 is 1. And then your last one, 15 divided by 5 is 3. I didn't factor out the c, so you have to write that down. And then 5 minus 2 is 3, so d to the third. For number 3, I have 7z to the 9th plus 5z to the 6th. So the first thing that you're going to do is, I'm going to look, is there anything that'll factor out of 7 and 5? No. So we're going to factor out the z because it's in both of them. Then I'm going to take the lowest exponent on the z, which is a 6. You're going to copy down your 7. And then you're going to subtract your exponents. 9 minus 6 is 3. Six minus 6 is 0. Okay, number 4. You have 7y times a plus 3b plus z times a plus 3b.
This change.
What?
How many questions are in this test? Do you think,
20?
Yeah, probably around 20.
All right.
Okay, everybody got that copied? Okay, what's common to both of these? A plus 3b. So you're going to write that down. A plus 3b. And then you're going to have left 7y plus z. Okay, next, let's do this one. Of 8 n to the third minus 8 n squared plus 2n. So first, what can I factor out of 8? 8 and 2. And we can factor out a 2. I can't zoom in. So I'm going to factor out a 2. And then there's an n in all of these. So I'm going to factor out an n to the first. Now you're going to divide and subtract to get each of your numbers. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then you're going to subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. And one more like that. Number 6. 14a to the fourth minus 8a to the third. And we're going to look 14 and 8, what will divide into both of those? 2. And then the lowest exponent on the a is a 3, so 2a to the third. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0. So you get that. Okay. Now, that's where you have your simple factoring, where you're just factoring out one thing from each of these. Okay, now we're going to go to our trinomial factoring. And let's do our first one. So we're going to do x squared plus 6x plus 8. So we're looking for what multiplies to give me 8 and adds to be 6. So what are things that multiply to be 8? Well, you've got 8 and 1. You've got 4 and 2. That's it. So you're going to add those together. 8 plus 1 is 9. 4 plus 2 is 6. So my roots are these two right here. So since this is an x squared one, we'll talk about the ones that have the number in the front of them. But as long as it's just a 1 right here, you just going to factor this way. So you're going to do x plus 4, x plus 2. Okay, number 8, x squared plus 10x plus 16. I'm looking for what multiplies to be 16 and adds to be 10. So 2 times 8 is 16. 2 plus 8 is 10. It'll be x plus 2, x plus 8. This test really shouldn't take you that long because some of these are just like this. You're just figuring out what multiplies and adds there. Okay, I'll pull a couple more. Let me pull a couple more. Second. I have x squared. Let's deal with it when it has a negative. Minus 3x minus 40. This is where you have to be careful about your signs when you start having the negatives. When everything's positive, all your numbers are going to be positive. When you start having negatives, you got to think about your signs as well. Okay, so for this one, I'm looking for something that multiplies to be 40 and adds to be negative 3. So what multiplies to be 40? Well, we've got 5 times 8. We got 4 and 10. And then, I mean, we know it's not going to be 40 and 1, but those are the ones that come off to start with. Okay, so let's look at this. One of them has to be negative. So let's say I tried this one as the negative. If I add negative 5 plus 8, what do I get? 3. But this is a negative 3. My center number needs to be a negative 3, which means that I need to change that, and I need to make the 8 the negative. Okay, that will make it, when I add it, negative 3. Then you're going to write down your terms. So it'll be x plus 5, x plus negative 8. Okay, let's do this one. X squared plus 29x minus 30. Okay, we're looking for multiplies to be negative 30, adds to be positive 29. So I would think most of us get that it's going to be 30 and 1 here with that big number there. The question is, which one needs to be negative, the 30 or the 1? Okay, so if I make the 30 negative, I do negative 30 plus 1. What does that give me? Negative 29. Is that my middle term? Look at your middle term again. It's positive. Your middle term is positive, right? So what that means is you're going to reverse these signs. Okay, that one's going to be your positive now, and the 1's going to be your negative. Now, if I add them, I get a positive 29, which is what my middle term is. So if you have the right difference but the wrong sign, that means that you need to reverse your signs. So I'm going to factor this. I'm going to get x plus 30, x plus negative 1. X squared plus negative 18x plus 56. And what multiplies to be 56 and adds to be negative 18? So what are things that multiply to be 56?
8 times 7.
Okay, 8 times 7. And if I add 8 and 7, what do I get?
8 and 7 15.
Okay, so we got to try something else.
9 going to 8, 9,
9 goes into 8 times.
Yeah, it does.
no, 9 would go. That's still 15. Though.
Yeah. Let's use our calculator. So 56 divided by,
Yeah, my calculator won't into my locker either, so I have this little by myself. It says, weren't we done with algebra early yesterday? But I thought, like, weren't we done early?
This checks 9 times 6 is 54.
yeah. But it doesn't, I mean, there's 9 doesn't go into 56. I'm trying to figure out what goes into 56 for a second. Oh, I have the answer key. Why am I looking at it? 4 goes into it. So I do 56 divided by 4. 54 goes into it 14 times. So I've got 4 and 14. But I know that's why you have to start punching stuff into your calculator.
Well, my algebra book's on my calculator, so they walked off somewhere.
We'll look for it after this class. Oh,
There's a calculator.
It's probably mine.
okay, so let's look at this. So if I add 14 plus 4, I get 18. But the problem is that this middle term is negative. So that means that I have to make both of these negative. Why am I making both of them negative? Because a negative times a negative equals a positive. So I can do that. And that will still add to be negative 18, and it'll still multiply to be positive 56. So you're going to do x plus negative 4, x plus negative 14, or you can do x minus 4, x minus 14. You can write them that way too. And one last one like this. Not that we're done for the day. We're going to do one more like this, and then we're going to go to the other kind that y'all have. What? You're going to do x squared minus 4x minus 21. So what multiplies to be 21 and adds to be negative 4? So what are things that multiply to be 21? 3 and 7. Okay, which one needs to be negative? The 7. Again, if you look at the center term, if the center term's negative, that means my bigger number needs to be negative. So this one's going to be x plus 3, x minus 7. Any questions on these? These are just, most of you did pretty well on these on your quizzes because you took a quiz over this and you took a quiz over this. Most of you did well or decent over both of these. Okay, this last section that we're going to go over is the part that you struggled with more. So make sure you're paying attention extra for this. Okay, looking at number 13. These are the ones that have the extra step to them. We're going to start with 9x squared minus 19x plus 2. Okay, so step 1 is you're going to multiply your front number by your last number. Most of you did very good at that. You knew that first step. So you do 9 times 2, which gives me 18. You're going to multiply those two together first. 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, then I need what I'm going to use to add to be negative 19. There's only one choice here. I got 1 and 18, and they both need to be negative in order to add to negative 19. So I'm going to rewrite this. It's now 9x squared plus negative 1x plus negative 18x plus 2. That negative 19x turned into these two terms. Okay, now you're going to factor. So nothing will go into 9. So I'm going to factor each of these. Let me put a parenthesis here and here. Nothing will go into 9 and 1. So I'm not going to factor anything out of that, but I have an x in both of these terms. So I'm going to factor out the x, and that's going to give me 9 x plus negative 1. Then I'm going to look at the second one. Okay, I have 18 and 2. Now, 2 will factor out of that, but you're also going to need to factor out the negative, because remember I told you can never have a negative in front of that x term. So you're going to factor out your negative, and then you're going to divide. Negative 18 divided by negative 2 is going to give me 9, 9x. And then negative 2 divided by negative 2 is going to give me negative 1. So that's your term. So now you're going to take this out, the 9x plus negative 1. You're going to take that out from both terms, and you're going to left with x plus negative 2. So this is what that's going to factor to be. Okay, for the next one, I'm going to do 12x squared plus 8x plus 1. So step 1, you're going to multiply 12 times 1, which gives me 12. And then what multiplies to be 12 and adds to be 8? It's going to be 6 and 2. So you're going to rewrite this. So I've got 12x squared plus 6x plus 2x plus 1. Factor and factor. So 6 will factor out of both of those and an x, which leaves me 2x plus 1. And then what do you do if you don't have anything that'll factor out? Put out a 1. So I do 1 times 2x plus 1. So we're going to factor out the 2x plus 1. And I'm going to be left with the 6x. Whoops, hold on. Let me move this up. So I'm factoring out the 2x plus 1. And I'm left with the 6x plus 1. Okay, 6x squared minus 17x plus 5. So step 1, I'm going to multiply 6 times 5, which is going to give me 30. Then I'm figuring out what multiplies to equal 30 and adds to be 17. Anybody know what that is?
No.
What multiplies to be 30?
15 and 2.
Yes, 15 and 2. But be careful because this is a negative 17, which means that both of these terms need to be negative. So make both of those negative, negative and negative. And you're going to add that back in. So you've got 6x squared plus negative 15x plus negative 2x plus 5. And here's my two little areas. What will factor out of 6 and 15? 3. So take a 3 out. And then I also can take an x. You can always take an x out of the first two terms. That's the ones that you're going to take the x out of. So it's going to be 3x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then I'm left with 1x there. And then negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. And then I took the x out, so I don't have any x terms left to that. Now, in the second one, there's nothing that I can factor out. But remember, I told you, you can never have a negative in front of this. You can never have a negative in front of that x term. So you're going to have to factor out a -1. Which means that everything's going to change to its opposite sign. But you can always check this by dividing, just like you do for anything else. Do -2 divided by -1 is 2. 5 divided by -1 is -5. And when you're done with these, they should always match up. So you should look back and see, does this match up? And if it does match up, then you've done it correctly. So now I have 2x plus -5. And then left, I'm going to have 3x plus -1. We're going to do 2 more of these and then we'll be done. Everybody done with this one? Okay. (10x²) plus -1x plus -2. Oops. So step 1, I'm going to do 10 times -2 is -20. Means I'm going to have a positive and a negative term. So what are my 2 terms going to be? It's got to add to be -1. What multiplies to be -20? If I do 5 and 4. Okay, and then one of them has to be negative. Since the 1 is negative, that means the bigger number is going to be negative. So I'm going to make the 5 a negative there. And you're going to rewrite. So I've got 10x² plus -5x plus 4x plus -2. And then you're going to factor this. What comes out of 10 and 5? Well, 5. And then I always am going to factor out an x out of that first term. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then I have my x left. And then 5 divided by 5 is -5 divided by 5 is -1. I go to my second term. What goes out of 4 and -2? Well, 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. So you've got 2x plus -1. And then you've got left 5x plus 2. And then final one of the day. Did you say no?
I said no.
Oh,
I'm very sad.
you're sad that we're ending these today?
Yeah, something's better.
Okay, so 21. I think I did this one. 21x² minus 2x minus 3. So start by multiplying 21 by 3, which is going to give you 63, which is one of those bigger numbers in life. So what can I multiply that'll give me 63? That will add to be probably.
Try 7 and 9.
Yeah. There was one, no, it was something that 12 went into on the quiz. So 7 and 9. Which one needs to be negative? The 9. So I've got 21x² plus, I'm going to do my -9x first. That way I don't have to deal with something later. Plus 7x plus negative 3. What? Now, if I put the 7 first, I just didn't want to have to factor out the negatives because sometimes that confuses y'all. But if you put that, yes. Sure. And then you're going to do what goes into 21 and 9. And that's 3. So you do 3x. So you're going to get 7x plus negative 3. And then I go to these last two terms right here. Nothing will factor out of them. So I'm going to take the 1 out. And then I've got 7x plus negative 3. So I'm going to factor out the 7x plus negative 3. And then I've got left 3x plus 1.